of course, this is the point, and I'm going to invite any senator who has an amendment or wants to make a statement. This is your moment. Senator Cornyn.
Well, I really want to start with a question. This bill purports to eliminate sovereign immunity in our courts for the members of OPEC. Have the sponsors of the bill considered what would happen if those countries reciprocated and passed laws which eliminated the United States sovereign immunity and thus subject them to litigation in their courts?
If the government is in a free market system that we presumably have, and they're acting as a commercial industry, they ought to be subject to the same things that private companies are subject to.
Well, that's waiving sovereign immunity strikes me as a pretty dramatic change in the status quo. The other question I would have is on page 2 of the bill, inapplicability of defenses. It says, no court of the United States shall decline based on the act of state, foreign sovereign compulsion, or the political question doctrine, make a determination on the merits in an action brought by this section. It reads to me like the Congress would tell the federal courts, Article III courts, that they couldn't decline to hear a case based on its non-justiciability under the political question doctrine, which strikes me as unconstitutional. Could you, perhaps the sponsors of the bill, reassure me?
Okay, well, I'll answer part of this. I'll let Senator Grassley answer the rest. As a practical matter, the bill is not self-executing. It grants the Justice Department the sole authority to enforce the law, and that means the Justice Department will actually have prosecutorial discretion to determine when and how to enforce the bill. And enforcement, I think you would know, doesn't take place in a vacuum. That means the department can consult as appropriate with National Security Division, whoever it wants to consult with, Department of Energy and the like, to help inform decision-making. It just simply gives them the power to do this. And I don't doubt that cartel members would rather not be subject to the antitrust laws, and that the foreign governments that control these oil companies would rather not face potential federal law enforcement. But this simply stands for the proposition that foreign state ownership should not give certain oil companies a free pass to distort global energy markets through anti-competitive cartel activity.
Well, but the question I ask is about the denying the federal courts authority under the non-justiciability doctrine to decline to consider a case based on a well-established doctrine of the courts that they won't decide political questions, but this appears to bind the federal courts, which strikes me as unconstitutional. But I'll just say, because I know the chairman's anxious to move on, if we really want to deal with the price at the pump, we ought to produce more oil and gas here in America. And the policies of the Biden administration in its war on fossil fuels, including canceling the Keystone XL pipeline, limiting exploration offshore, charging extraordinarily high royalties for doing so, is sending a loud and clear message to American energy producers. We are an energy powerhouse, but the Biden administration's war on fossil fuels is tying the hands of American producers. It's hurting jobs. A lot of people that work in the oil and gas sector in Texas consider this a threat to their very livelihood, and they're right. So supply and demand is, I think, where we ought to spend our focus our attention, and I think it's the policies of the administration. I know everybody's looking for an easy way out. They want a gas tax holiday. They want to do all these feel-good pie-in-the-sky things, which won't do anything to increase the supply of oil and gas, which is the best way to bring down price at the pump. But I guess our colleagues across the aisle, their politics won't allow them to do that or acknowledge the essential role of oil and gas as in part of our fuel mix. One of the problems our friends in Europe are experiencing now is they are entirely dependent on Russia for their oil and gas, and they think that maybe renewables, hydropower, things like that will fill the gap. What they're realizing, particularly in countries like Germany, is that it doesn't add up. And while renewables play an important role in the United States, it's about 20%. Nuclear, I think in Texas, Senator Cruz, is about 20% of our mix. But really, the best protection against dependency on authoritarian countries like Russia is a diverse mix of energy, and the best protection against high prices at the pump is not to tell people we're going to be able to sue these other countries in our courts under our antitrust laws, and we're going to bind the hands of the federal courts and saying you can't, we're going to tell you what cases you're going to hear. You can't decide that for yourself. I think this is misguided, and it will not solve the problem.
Would you yield a question,
I have
Senator?
some amendments that I will offer, but I will not do that today. But I think this is a misguided enterprise.
Would you yield to a question, Senator?